Hey, welcome back to another REPL speedrun with me, Vince. Today, we're going to be going a bit deeper into the world of functions and methods in Java, and we're going to be creating our own functions from start to finish to tackle various problems. So let's dive right in. So as you can see here, we're going to go from challenge 40 to 44 on the Java REPL.it. And first challenge is we want to write a method header on line 2 with the following specs. We want to return a double, which as you remember is a number with decimal places, name negate, and parameters is a double called number. And then starting on line 4, we want to write the code that will return the opposite value of number. So let's write the header first. We want to return a double, so we're going to put double here. We want to name it negate, and we want to have a parameter, which is a double called num. So how do we return a value from a function? And the way we return a value is we use the keyword return. And what return does is it takes the variables or whatever numbers, variables, values are on the right side of it and will return them from the function. So if we want to return the opposite value of num, and the simplest way to do that is just to return negative num. That's it. If it's a negative number, then num will become positive. If it's a positive number, then num will become negative. That's all. And of course, we put static here. So if we run this code, y is, okay, that's a very interesting error. You know, I don't know why that's happened because that's part of the unit tests. It might just be my REPL being bad, so I'm going to reload the page. But otherwise, we might have to do some trickery to resolve this. Okay, we've reloaded the page. Let's run it again. Oh, okay, so it was just the REPL being a REPL. So as you can see, we are printing negate 8, which should return negative 8, as it does. And we're also printing negate negative 2, which returns 2, as it does. So just flipping the minus sign around. And so there we go. You've written your first function. Congratulations. If you're a bit confused about why it says method and I'm saying function and actually, the two are almost interchangeable, I believe. And so if you're looking online, maybe looking for help for some code, and you see method, just remember it can mean function, and function also means method, other way around. And they mean the same thing. So next problem. We want to write a method header that returns a boolean named both even, and it takes in 2 integers. So we can put our header as boolean both even, and then int num1, int num2, static boolean. Right, and then we want to write code that will return true if both num1 and num2 are even. Right, okay. So, well, we can first, let's create a boolean. Num1 even, and if num1 is even, then we'll set this to true. So we can actually directly set this to a conditional statement. In this case, we can set it to num1 modulo 2 equals 0, and if num1 modulo 2 equals 0, it means num1 is even, otherwise it means it's not. The same thing we can do for number 2. Num2 mod 2 equals 0, and we only want to return true if both of these statements are even. So we want to return num1 even and num2 even. So what this means is that if num1 and num2 even are both true, which means both numbers are even, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So if we run this code, what? Oh, sorry, I put both even event. Okay, if we run this code, what is going on? So I think we have to reload the REPL because the REPL is being a REPL. Just going to quickly reload all of these other pages as well in case we get the same error. It looks like it's something carrying over. But anyways, if we run this code again, as you can see, we get true for the first one because both 8 and 6 are even, and false for the second one because 5 is not even. So this code works perfectly. But if we wanted to be a bit faster, we actually don't need these booleans. We can simply write these conditional statements in their place. And so we can directly test if num1 is even and num2 is even and just return the result of that. So it's a one-line solution to the problem. So if we run the tests, then as you can see, we get them all correct. And we can move on to the next one. So we want to write a method that returns a character, name is getChar, parameters, a string called word, and an integer called index. Okay, so we want to go static, char, getChar, and then we want to have a string called word, and we want to have an integer called index. And if you remember, the method to get the character from a string at a certain index is word.char@, and then we can put the index in here. And we can simply return this character, and it should all be done. That's it. So if we wait, as you can see, we're getting the character at the first index of hello, which should be E, and indeed we return E. So our code is working perfectly. So as long as this executes well, okay, we can move on to the next challenge. So we want to write a method that returns a string, name is make 3 substrings, parameters is a string called word, an integer called start index, and an integer called end index. So static string make 3 substring string word int start index int end index. Okay. And then we want to start on line 4. We want to write code that returns 3 times the substring from start index to end index. Haha, very fun. So I guess the cheat way to do this would be to, first, how do we get a substring? We have to go word.substring. If you remember from our speedrun from, I think, strings. And we want to put start index here, and we want to put end index in the second slot. Yep. And I think we can just multiply this by 3. Let's see how tolerant Java is of this. Because what this should do is it should duplicate the string 3 times. This could also, yeah, just clearly go horribly wrong. So I guess we could just put the plus. Actually, let's save this into a variable so it looks a bit neater. Substring equals, string substring is equal to that. And we can return the substring 3 times. Just substring added to itself, add it to itself again. And if we run this code, it should work perfectly. Forgot semicolon, oops. Run this code. There we go. It returns the correct output. So yeah, that's cool. You know, if I'm going too fast, let me know in the comments if I should slow down, if I should explain things a bit thoroughly more, or if I'm going too slow, alternatively, tell me to speed it up so we can get through more things faster. So on to the final challenge of today. We're going to write a method header on line 2 with the following specs. It should return a string. Name is mixed string, and it takes in 2 strings called S1 and S2. So static string mixed string string S1 string S2. And what does it want it to do? It wants us to write the code that will return the strings combined one letter at a time, starting with S1, and we can assume that S1 and S2 are equal lengths. Okay, so this is an interesting challenge, and we're going to be using a for loop. Actually, yeah, we're going to be using a for loop. So for, and in this case, int I equals 0, I is less than s1.length. That's how we get the length of the string. I plus plus. And if you're unfamiliar with for loops, maybe watch my previous or speedrun 2 speedruns ago where we went over for loops in depth. And finally, we want to get the characters at this position. Actually, first let's make an empty string. String answer is equal to empty string. And we want to add answer plus equals s1 dot let's see if char at works. I don't remember if you can add characters to strings. s2 dot char at I, and then we can return answer, which is our combined string. So if we run this code, let's see if we can combine characters. Oh, no, the answer is no. So we're gonna have to get the substring at this position. I plus 1, and an s2 dot substring I plus 1. And if we run this code, we should see it all be working. And it do all be working. So it's combined these two strings with alternating characters, first adding a letter from the first string, and then adding a letter from the second string. And so that's all work. So that's the end of these basic method challenges. I hope you're now a bit more confident that you know how to code a method, and maybe you can code some basic ones yourself. And if you want to see more awesome coding content, leave a like in this video. If you have any comments about it, please leave them in the comments. And as always, make sure to subscribe. See you next time.